from curses to questionable practices, today's video is all about scary tales from ancient Egypt. But before we get started with today's video, I've got to give a shout out to audible.com for their support in making this video. What is Audible? Audible is the leading provider of spoken word media in the world. If you're like me and you love reading every waking moment of every day, this app is perfect for when you're on the go. It is absolutely every title under the sun, including podcasts, bestsellers, and original celebrity content. As a member, I get a free book every month, and I personally love listening to some of my favorite fantasies as I go for walks to, get out of the house during lockdown, because that's the only way I can. It's seriously the perfect escape. I can't recommend it enough. You also get access to their Plus catalog, which has got guides for meditation and fitness, sleep tracks for the restless dreamers, and theatrical performances. Like, what else do you need? Curious? Well, check it out for 30 days. For free, and I dare you not to like it. It's also great for multitaskers, like I'm currently listening to like 3 different books, I think. If you want to start listening to Starless Sea or the Actar series like me or any other audiobooks, go to audible.com/MA10 or text MA10 to 500 500. Also, what's the best book you've read lately? Let me know. I'm always looking for different things, so let us know in the comment section. I'm always looking for more ideas. I'm addicted, okay? But I'm okay with it. Now, let's get started with our top 10 true scary stories about ancient Egypt. Coming in at number 10, pharaohs used to cover their servants in honey. Look, we know bugs are the worst and we would do almost anything to stop them from ruining our outdoor hangouts. There is bug spray, those tiki torch things, citronella candles, but what if your boss didn't want to use any of that and wanted to use you instead? Pharaohs had their own method of human bug spray. They covered their slaves in honey so that any flies would be attracted to them instead of their skin. But they weren't the only things attracted to them, as wasps and bees would often pay a visit as well. I guess this first one isn't so scary for the pharaohs, but if you were a slave, Coming in at number 9, we have Khonsuemheib the Ghost. This next one is one of the most popular ghost stories ever found in Egypt. It dates back from anywhere between 1570 to 1069 BCE and was found in fragments on scraps of pottery. The story is about a man named Khonsuemheib who discovers a tormented spirit and tries to help him. The spirit's tomb was destroyed and he is enraged because his soul now suffers in the wind, starving without the offerings of his family and friends. The priest makes good on his promise to rebuild the temple, and though this story is assumed to have a happy ending, the end was never found, so who really knows? Plus, it was accounted on pieces of pottery, so we actually don't know whether this is like a true account of events or if it was actually just a ghost story. Coming in at number 8, we have a cholera outbreak. Mummies are super cool, and along with the many legends that surround them, it is no wonder why people became fixated with them in Europe. In the 1800s, mummies were the it thing in Europe, like it was the new black, as money were smuggled out and sometimes brought to parties and unwrapped. Hold on, pause that for a second. Brought mummies to parties and then unwrapped them for their own entertainment. Like, imagine if somebody did that to your Uncle Jim. Hey, Uncle Jim, do you want to come to a party one last time? That's so rude. But not only that, mummy wrappings became a popular way to wrap food and is suspected as a cause for cholera. August Sandwood, an American paper merchant, imported mummies to make rag paper. Why wouldn't you just use everything else around you? But of course, they were too stained to make anything because, I don't know, they were wrapped around a corpse for thousands of years. So he sold the paper to butchers who then wrapped their produce in it. But then an outbreak of cholera was traced back to him, so he immediately was like, shut it down, never mind. That was a bad idea. Yeah, it was August. Coming in at number 7, servants put to death beside their masters. Okay, imagine your boss right now. Like, think about them really hard. How much do you like them on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, if your answer is 10 to 10, you might not be too disappointed to hear what happened to slaves when their masters died. They were stuck with them forever. Oftentimes, if a servant's master passed away, their servants would then be put to death in order to serve them in the afterlife. It was considered a massive honor as the Egyptians were obsessed with the idea of life after death. So you wouldn't necessarily feel like you were being murdered, I guess. Still, how do you feel about your boss right now? How do you feel about being stuck with them for an indefinite amount of time? Coming in at number 6. I don't know about you, but the idea of eating my fellow man does not get me in the mood for barbecue. Funny thing is, there have been more instances of humans eating each other than you may think. And for the most part, it was normalized. Some even believe they could use human flesh to cure ailments, which is exactly what us lovely humans did did in the 16 to 1700s in Europe. God, Europe's so weird. Like, geez, who discovers a dead person's like, oh man, you know what? That could cure my headache. Ugh. Europe, if you had a blood disease, you drink some blood. If you had a headache, you crush a bit of skull and pop it in some soup. And for some reason, someone got the idea that various human bones and organs could be used to heal sicknesses and other ailments, which included, at the time, crushed up mummies. Take bits of mummies and grind them into a fine powder and add it to a tincture. It was believed that this tincture could help stop internal bleeding. Oh, who thought of that? Geez, guys, how did we get here? Like, honestly, how do we survive this long? Who goes, you know, guys, I know nothing about the human body, but I bet crushing up that mummy is gonna help stop this internal bleeding that I have. I guarantee you. Like, who thinks of that? It's ridiculous. I don't know why I get so worked up about it. Okay, this one's really gross, guys. Get ready. Coming in number 5, weird birth control. This next one made me appreciate modern medicine so much, man, because this is terrifying. Not to mention disgusting. Ancient civilizations got pretty inventive when it came to contraceptives. The ancient Romans, for example, used a plant called silphium so much they made it go extinct. But for some reason, the ancient Egyptians believed that a mixture of crocodile dung and honey could work as a form of birth control. If you break down, honey is technically antibacterial, so it could prevent infection when it was used, but still, perhaps it was because crocodiles were revered and respected that they thought, oh, this will help this problem that we have, and I guess how would they know that it wouldn't work? But the scariest part about this fact was probably the person who thought up the idea in the first place. Just went, you know what that would work for? That's what they did. I don't know why this is getting me so wild up today. I'm just going nuts. Here we go. Coming in at number 4, opposite to our policy today, if you violated any ancient Egyptian laws, not only were you considered guilty until proven innocent, sometimes oracles decided your fate regardless of the evidence. As terrifying as guilty until proven innocent is towards protecting the innocent in general, the fact that if you also pissed off the priests, they could just deem you guilty after a vision from the gods. They would bring in the statue of the sun god, and they had 2 papers, one that said innocent and the other that said guilty, and the statue was supposed to turn towards the paper they deemed the truth. This meant that no matter what the evidence was, your fate was susceptible to the ultimate con. Okay, we're coming up to number 1, 2, and 3. If you like this video so far and want to see more like it, press the little button, and then if you want to see more of it, you know, subscribe. Coming in at number 3, creepy climate change predictions. This next one might have been the warning we needed to prevent climate change. While uncovering the tomb of Queen Khonsuemheib III from 4,500 years ago, scientists have discovered disturbing environmental patterns that are all too similar to our own. It was around this time when she died where significant changes were influencing the Old Kingdom and empires across Europe. Changes such as democracy, nepotism, and the influence of interest groups became stronger. Within 200 years of her death, drought consumed the kingdom along with poor harvests and insufficient taxes, which couldn't support the state. The leader of the dig, Professor Miroslav Barta, says that these environmental changes mirror our own issues with climate change unless we do something to stop it. Coming in at number 2, even considering the guilty until proven innocent philosophy, the ancient Egyptians actually didn't use death as a punishment very often. They valued the sanctity and continuation of life, which especially is mirrored in their beliefs when you think about the lengths they went to preserve the human body from decay. But there was one offense that could not be forgiven, which was any crime made against the sun god. Anyone who committed an offense against the sun god would be burned at the stake. It was a death feared by all, not just for the obvious reason, but because it would eradicate their physical form, making life after death impossible. Their soul had nowhere to go. I mean, I hate the idea of death by fire in general, but on top of that, if I believed what they did back then, I can only imagine how terrifying that would be. And lastly, coming in at number 1, we have the opening of King Tut's tomb. Of course this was gonna be on this list. You thought it wasn't. You thought it wasn't, didn't you? One of the most infamous moments in history was the opening of King Tutankhamun's tomb. This moment was the poster child for cursed mummies. The curse of the pharaohs declares that anyone who disturbs their rest, including all the witnesses, will be cursed. Howard Carter in the 1920s searched Egypt for 6 years to find King Tutankhamun's tomb until finally coming across a sealed room in 1922 with a solid gold sarcophagus inside. So clearly he wasn't afraid. This was it! They found him, but Howard should have heeded the warning. Here's what happened after they opened it. So get ready. Carter's canary was eaten by a cobra, cobras being symbolic for Egyptian royals. Lord Carnarvon, Howard's sponsor, died from blood poisoning poisoning due to an infected mosquito bite that he scratched when he was shaving. Some believe the bite was in the same location as a lesion on King Tut's cheek, but he was buried before they could double check. Carter's friend, Sir Bruce Ingham's house burned down not once, but twice. He received a threat days before in the form of a mummified hand paperweight with a scarab bracelet with a note saying, "Cursed be he who moves my body, to him shall come fire, water, and pestilence." I guess they missed the water part because his house was on fire. But they tried. George J. Gold fell sick right after opening and died. Hugh Evelyn White helped excavate the site, and after seeing some of his friends die, committed suicide, leaving a note in his own blood that read, "I have succumbed to a curse which forces me to disappear." Then Sir Archibald Douglas merely x-rayed the mummy, got sick the next day, and died 3 days later. Surprisingly, nothing crazy happened to Howard, but what do you think? Plenty more things happened, but I don't have time to list all of them, unfortunately. There's literally so many. But what do you guys think? Curse or coincidence? And that is our top 10 true scary stories about ancient Egypt. I've been your host, Rachel Fisher, and until next time, guys, take care and stay safe.